Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Right Royal Jam with me and Tina. We are live today, and we want to talk about Harry.
Of course.
So we thought it would be a good idea to go through some extracts of his book, Spare, and we're going to paraphrase a few quotes from the book and just analyze them and go through it because actually I've had a little look at some stuff today and I thought, oh my goodness, that kind of explains a lot. But we'll go through it from the beginning. How are you anyway today, Tina?
I'm okay. I'm good. Good afternoon, DMR. Yeah, no, I'm good. Bank holiday Monday. UK weather's rubbish. Rubbish.
I
It's
know, right?
like
It's horrible,
rain
isn't
one
it?
minute, sun the next. It's like, give me a break. What do I wear?
No,
So,
exactly. No, I know. It was nice and sunny this morning. And
hmm
then we went to the cinema and watched King Kong. It was great.
Ah, lovely.
Yeah, very fun. So, the Royal Jam today, a right Royal Jam, we're going to talk about do we care about the spare? And what, do you know what I'm going to start with actually?
And I just want to chuck in a bit as well,
Yeah,
because
go
with the
for it.
spare, I think the whole idea of this is Harry, I don't know about you, Vic. I did not look at him ever like the spare. For me, it
No.
was just, we know it happens within the royal family. You've got this heir in the spare, but I never looked at him in a demeaning, derogatory, like it was never a thing. He was always an equal to William. We remembered him from that day. And I feel like he defined his own future with that book and that word. Because now we look at him, and what do you think?
He was obviously, this was something that was simmering away inside of him for years and years and years, and he had to share it with everybody else because he considered himself as a spare from when?
But the
Day
thing
one?
is, they're sharing it. No, his mom used to say about him being the spare as
Oh,
well. So,
really?
I feel like it's sort of a normal language when you've got, was it Annie was no, Andrew was the spare. So, like, this is a normal for them in their bubble. So, yes, okay, it's probably affected him, obviously, but I don't think it affected him as much as it did until Meghan come along. My opinion.
Yes.
Hello,
Yeah.
Paula.
Hi, everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining us. Sarah Rose, sorry, says she never looked at him like a spare either.
No, nobody
Um,
did. We do now.
yes. I mean, I suppose there is that kind of feeling for him where he feels less irrelevant with William being around because William has this big job to do later on in life. Paula says hello, gorgeous ladies. Hi Paula, how are you today? Um,
Hello.
Good afternoon, Victoria. Hello everybody. Thank you all for joining us. So I do have some funny parts from the book because I just thought I'd read these out because
Okay.
this was hilarious. So this was my favourite quote from the book. Um, Upon arriving home, I'd been horrified to discover that my nether regions were frost-nipped as well. And while the ears and cheeks were already healing, the Todger wasn't. His downstairs was oscillating between extremely sensitive and borderline traumatized. I'd been trying some home remedies, including one recommended by a friend, and she urged me to apply Elizabeth Arden cream. I said to my friend, my mum uses that on her lips. You want me to put that on my todger? She replied, it works, Harry, trust me. That's, that's just so funny. Why is it?
Do you know what? Yeah, I get adding a bit of glitter and sparkle to a book.
Yeah,
It's very
yeah.
wordy, and that's what you do. You spin the words to add that flamboyance. But lips, todger, oscillating, mom's cream, mom's scent.
It's
Everyone just looked on and went, "No, you didn't take it there, Harry." Like no.
it's like it feels like it's sexualized, but it's not quite
Mm-hmm.
sexualized. And then the other part of it after that was, what was the universe trying to say to me by depriving me of both my brother and my penis? It's right. So you're talking about your 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 nether regions. and you're everything you're comparing it to, and you're putting your sibling in the sentence, or your mum.
I
Um,
know, I know.
it's a bit odd, isn't it? But it's quite funny, and that was a funny part of the book for
I
me. I
don't
think
know
that's
if
my
it's funny. I
favorite.
think it's quite traumatizing for anyone who's heard it or read it, and just shocking. Because nobody, Victoria, nobody would be okay. No male son would be okay with writing that in a book. Add your glitter and sparkle everywhere else, but not about your todger and your cream.
I just don't think we need to know about his frostbite on his todger. I don't mind hearing about his frostbite, but I mean, and the cream on the frostbite, I don't even know that facial cream would help frostbite anyway. I think if you've got frostbite, you're in trouble, right? As far as I
Yeah,
know. As from what I watched today on King Kong, he had to have a bionic arm put on after he got some frostbite. So
there you
I'm not
go.
entirely sure
Thank God
that
Harry
works.
didn't need a
Maybe
bionic.
maybe he's got a bionic willy.
Oh my God.
Imagine
Yeah.
Megan. That's why Megan's just looks upset all the time because
Oh,
she's got to
Jesus
deal with
Christ.
the
Oh,
bionic.
yeah, that woman. Ugh,
So there's a
crazy.
few things which I feel like in the books revealed a bit more psychology behind Harry, and it's kind of making a bit more sense to me what's going on in his head. Not that I'm condoning his behaviour, but I do feel like things kind of make a bit of sense to me now. There was
Okay.
a part here where Harry spoke to a medium to contact his mother. And this is before, when we spoke about this previously, Tina, and we
Hmm.
said, well, you told me about Meghan being a medium,
Yeah.
and contacting and speaking to Diana. Well, he sought after a medium before Meghan, or this could be Meghan. It could just be a cover up in the book. But it says here that he found comfort in contacting mediums, and he met a woman who claimed to have powers and relayed messages from those who have passed on, including his mother, the late Princess Diana. And this is what the medium relayed back to Harry. He stated that you're living the life she couldn't, you're living the life she wanted for you. Um, and the woman also told Harry that Diana was with him right now, a message that made his neck grow warm and his eyes water. Now, I know we've touched on this before, haven't we? That we do seek comfort from
Yeah.
mediums
People
in
that have
terms of
lost
passing.
parents or family members, And,
Yeah.
and I suppose taking into account all of that with Harry, in if he spent all his life grieving his mom, the fact his dad's laid there with cancer right now and could, let's be honest, be gone in a year.
Mm,
How is he
mm.
not taking all that into account? However, when you say about this medium also goes on to tell him, I do believe, that she was there with him when Archie broke a Christmas tree decoration. Now, that tells me this
Yes.
medium came into play whilst he was with Meghan. So, with the way I am and the way I feel and think, tells me that possibly this medium may know more than Harry realizes.
Yeah, and it's very difficult to be a medium when the celebrity's kind of life was, or whoever, if there's someone in the media that everybody knows about them already, it's very
Yeah.
difficult to differentiate what's private and what's not. And you're right. And I read that part as well about him breaking the Christmas ornament. Was that
Yeah.
correct? And she had a giggle, and I'm
Mm.
and I'm wondering whether now it's kind of making a bit more sense to me if Harry relayed this story to Meghan in the beginning of their relationship, did she play on that and use that to her advantage? Because normally, if you there are a lot of cynics out there, and they wouldn't necessarily say that mediumship is real. But when it comes to someone already having this feeling and believing in it,
Mm-hmm.
has she then used that to her advantage?
Yeah.
Because
Well,
it's,
it,
yeah,
it, it could possibly be that way, couldn't it? Let's be honest.
it it's either that she is the medium in the book,
Mm-hmm.
or this is like this kind of confirms the theory that Meghan heard the story and then jumped on that. And has she used that to her
But I
advantage?
don't believe this was a story shared to Meghan. I feel like Meghan was in place when this medium was sought after, because they speak on a broken declaration. So
Okay.
Meghan, in hearing that, you understand that Meghan was suddenly on the scene because Archie was alive. So if in that book I had heard a prince grieving who couldn't understand and was lost in this abyss, who followed mediums to contact his mom, and this all happened prior to Meghan coming on the scene, then I'll go, okay, so that's him seeking that, and that's, like we've said, many people do that.
Mm, mm,
But it's a bit
mm.
funny how he's gone to find peace in messages from beyond the grave after Meghan arrived.
Do you think that this is the only time he's contacted a medium?
Well,
Because I would,
he's
like
got
you
a
said,
whole
I
book about his
yeah,
life, hasn't he? So,
mm,
and he's divulging all.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
divulging all to the point where we know what cream and lips in oscillating penises and fights with brothers in kitchen. So, surely, as a lot of it is about the pain of his mom, surely we would hear stories prior to Meghan coming along of mediumship, you know?
And
I
yeah,
just find I'm very cynical, and someone's just said in the comments, Megs gave the woman a list. you know, and that's what it looks like. If you had stories prior to Meghan coming along where you contact your mum from beyond the grave using mediumship, then I would be more at peace with this. But it seems funny to me how this prince was, then all of a sudden we've got this. Right, so he was moving on as far as we could see. He was sort of happy with William and Catherine. Meghan comes along. All of a sudden, Diana is like everywhere. Everything he does, speaks, and we've got mediums coming onto the scene.
so you think she's introduced him to the medium world?
Absolutely, I do.
Mm,
But that's
mm.
just my opinion
And
on what I've seen.
yeah, and I could see that because I mean, but the thing is, if she's the one that's contacting or Diana's contacting her, then allegedly, then why is that not happening all the time instead of introducing another medium?
Well, maybe in that instance, we don't know. This is just us going with what they've put out there and gauging our own thinking and comparison the Harry we've watched, because his life's been like the Truman Show. Let's be honest. Like you said, how can you go to a medium when you're that? when everyone knows that we watch you walk beyond that. Like, how can you? And I just feel like, for me, it seems like, okay, a medium was sought out, maybe a suggestion from Meghan or a therapist. Who knows? Who knows at this point? But I feel like it seems funny to me how it all started to kick in, and this obsession with Diana and avenging her death and her being present. And it always links back to Diana. And that came alongside all this weird, I don't know, mirror imaging, Meghan dressing as her, and mediumship, and I don't know. Oh, I can't hear you. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Can everyone hear me? Or is it
I
my
know what it
sound?
was. Should have
Ah,
I
there
was
you
on,
go.
I was on mute. I was going back to the presentation because I had a presentation set up, guys, everyone watching, and I wasn't sure whether I could share it or not because of copyright.
Mm,
So I'm just going to read it instead. But I'm going to paraphrase. Is the best way to do it.
mm,
I'm still getting, go through the river of YouTube rules. It's quite
mhm.
crazy. But yeah, I think with Harry, I do find it odd that he's even kind of gone into that realm anyway, because it's very niche for some people, right?
Mhm.
And I would say that I understand it, but he seems to
Mhm.
have gone quite deep into it, where he's kind of living through messages almost, guiding his mum's guiding him at the moment.
Yeah.
Um,
all
it's
starting off with that medium saying,
mm,
your mom, you're living the life. Would you, if you were Harry's mom, want to watch him fighting court cases and endless loss? Would you want him, your child, harboring over you in grief from 26 years ago? Would you want that for your son? No,
no. I think you'd
no.
want closure by now.
Yeah.
I did contact a medium myself
Hmm.
when my nan died, and that was a few years back, and it was quite soon after. But there was a lot of things that she said that I agreed with, and there were some things that just weren't relevant at all.
Yeah.
And I did think, yeah, I got comfort from it, but I wouldn't certainly go back time and time again, because then you are living in the past. And
Hmm.
I think sometimes it is better just to put things to bed. I appreciate it is comforting for people, but it's a long time now since Diana died. So I don't think it's helpful actually
No,
contacting
no.
her. And it's for me, I'm wondering whether he's being encouraged to do
Oh,
that more often.
I suppose if you look at him growing up as a prince in an aristocrat family, they're not going to buy it. I'm sure they're not going to buy into any mediumship. So this life in doing that wouldn't have been an option. So we met Meghan, this yoga mat sort of free, and her mom was some kind of commune, didn't she? She lived so like so. I suppose if you were to play into this prince who's been locked away in a palace in the way he projects it, yes, he would be, oh my God, this is like a new world where I can be who I want to be. And I'm sure she's bigging that up in him. But when you see the damage and carnage that they have created in that power of being free, are they actually free, or are they more trapped than they were before?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just going through so many different emotions,
Hmm.
leaving the royal family. I would think maybe Harry at heart wanted to be a hippie. I don't know, hippie Harry. We just don't
Wow,
know.
he likes the odd
Oh, well, he
let's
does. Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna find him at one at the Glastonbury at the back of a tent somewhere.
Paula
Um,
said Meghan encourages Harry's nastiness.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. It's hard for me to work this out because it is such a delayed response to Diana's death. But then maybe didn't have the time, as devil's advocate, like I like to play sometimes.
Mm.
He didn't have the chance to kind of explore his grief and work on his grief. And he did have to maybe hide it more so because of the life he was living within the royal
And,
family.
and and
But
that I can agree with. We know it's like back to business. However, he had sort of, and yes, okay, but if you had a wife around you who, let's be honest with you, we watched him stream a therapy session with Gabor and charge people and frame it as support. If that was my husband and I could sense that grief and pain, would I sit back? For me, a therapy session should be between a therapist and that person, not placed on the screens. I feel like it's a circus. And,
mm,
and that to me is why I question, and a lot of us probably question Meghan's actual genuine care for him, because most wives wouldn't let that happen.
no, and you have to always wonder, would she be with Harry if, well, we know she wouldn't be with Harry if he wasn't who he was. Do you love
And
him for the man
sadly,
or for what he can give you?
hmm and that's
And
the thing. We know she was in the UK looking for a rich husband.
apparently she was seeking a prince. Do you know
I
any prince?
know,
To her friends, do you know
I
any princes? Yes, I know quite a few actually.
know. And Paula said he was taken to therapy as a child, and we watched William and Catherine, and even William, it said to Harry about getting therapy and stuff like that. But then he said, he's done that many interviews and spoken out that much, but he said somewhere along the lines that there was no help or support. It was never spoken on. But then in other interviews, he said about how William was the one encouraging him. So there's a constant, it's just not genuine. There's
Mm.
always a lie, or and this is the thing, you can't gauge a reality from their non-reality at this point.
Yeah, and I do feel like they contradict themselves quite a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard to kind of keep up with what's real and what isn't. And
Yeah.
some things feel really exaggerated. I've got a bit piece on here where let me just find it. I do apologise. So we
That's the
did touch.
one contradiction. Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah,
Carry on.
that's the one. So the fights, Tina, we were talking about the fight the other day, right?
We
So
were.
I pulled up the extract
Mm-hmm.
of the fight. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Harry writes that William called Meghan difficult, rude, and abrasive. Insults were exchanged, and Harry writes William claimed he was trying to help him. Are you serious? Help me? Sorry? Is that what you call this? Helping me? I'm just trying to do a voice there. Harry recalls asking his brother. The comment enraged William, Harry says, attempting to desolate. Harry offered William a glass of water, saying, Willie, I can't speak to you when you're like this. He set the water down, called me another name, then came at me. It all happened so fast, so very fast. Harry writes, he grabbed me by the collar, ripping my necklace, and he knocked me to the floor. I landed on the dog's bowl, which cracked under my back. The pieces cutting into me. I lay there for a moment, dazed, then got to my feet and told him to get out. William urged Harry to hit him back, citing the fights they used to have as children, but Harry refused. William left the house, but returned looking regretful and apologised. And then Harry writes, recalling that William stated, "You don't need to tell Megs about this." And Harry's written, "You mean that you attacked me?" And William responded, "I didn't attack you, Harold." It does go on, but it's
I
just
done a post on this part.
I know. Oh, so what I mean, listen, I know we've touched on this already, but that is, dramatizing quite a small incident.
It's a run-of-the-mill squabble with a brother, and the fact that that traumatized Harry so much just shows how mollycoddled that those boys have been, in how they grew up. Probably they've had fights before and stuff, but and also it's to throw weight at William. It's to place him in a bad light. But what I struggle with is everyone's like me and you and go, oh, but Harry was, he was this palace and he couldn't grieve. William is the exact same. So if we're allowing Harry's behaviour, how come William doesn't get that in this, But the one thing, I done a post on this because William come back in and said, you don't need to tell Meg. Now, for me, upon hearing that, I place myself in William's thought process. Why is Meg a threat in this situation? Why was Meg a worry? And this just shows, just in that one worry that he had come up, it shows the situation, in my opinion, in how Meg was being perceived and how damaging she was even back then. Because his only worry should have been Harry. But the new missus on the scene, don't tell her. Why? Why was he that concerned? And that's, for me, I was like, wow. We've seen the damage Meghan can cause. They were dealing with that before we've seen this. And that, for me, that comment showed that.
And I think you're right. I think he's probably scared of her retaliation, because he did call her abrasive, rude, and what was the other thing he called her? Abrasive, rude, and difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the royal family just saw her as some sort of thorn in their side, because she come in a bit like a whirlwind and doing things completely differently, not following protocol, not being respectful, and they could see this is going to be an issue because Harry just wasn't going to listen to anybody else. He was just going to go and do whatever he wanted to do because was madly in love with Meghan. And I can kind of understand William's frustration. They were going to squabble about her if she's not, especially if she's not being particularly polite or welcoming with the
Mm-hmm.
family.
Yeah.
So I just think here that Harry comes across worse because it's like tittle tattle, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
You know, he
Absolutely.
yeah. He
I,
wants yeah, go on. Go
carry
on.
on, carry on. Can you finish
No,
first?
no, you go,
Now
yeah.
we're being all very British and polite now, aren't we? You go first.
You go to me, to you,
To
to me,
you,
to
to
you.
me, to you.
So I just believe that he wanted to paint him in, like you said, paint William in a bad light. But really it's just come off that he looks like a petulant child
Absolutely.
because it's not really worthy of a story. It's not newsworthy for me, you
But it
know.
was though, wasn't it? It was newsworthy because we had then, news reports about police getting involved for assault. In
Oh,
honest to
oh,
God, and it was, and that's the power that Harry had coming out and doing this, and this is what he knew. And for me, William coming back and saying that also, I'm just going to add, shows the power balance they knew that was in situ, and that was Meg having the power. And but yeah, he knew it was going to make headlines. He knew it was going to be damaging. However, if we come back to reality, most of the people on the street went, yeah, and is that it?
is that it?
Two
Is
brothers
that
fighting in a
is that
kitchen, that is
all
it.
you've gone through?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I just think it's a dig at William more than anything because it's not, and I know it made headlines because two royals are talking about fighting, which has never really been done before. Um, but it's just irrelevant.
No.
It's just
I know.
normal life, isn't it?
Yeah.
And to make, I think a lot of the book does kind of paint William, trying to paint him in a kind of undertones of passive aggressive. What's the word I'm looking for?
Passive
Passive aggressive
aggressive.
behaviour. It with also with the Nazi comments when he dressed up
Oh,
in the
blaming,
uniform.
blaming
They
William
blamed.
and
I
Catherine.
mean, it's
You're
your
a
choice
grown
what
ass
clothes you put
adult.
on. It's you have
Yeah.
your own brain. You can
Yes,
put your
you
own
do.
clothes on. I mean, anyone that thinks that's okay to dress up in that uniform needs their head
Yeah.
tested.
Yeah.
That's not
Yeah.
funny. That's not satire. That isn't. It's just some things you just don't do,
And I
and
don't believe it for a
nobody does
second.
that.
I don't believe William and Catherine would do that for a second because the damage and the backlash would come back to William and the rest of the family. And also, I feel like considering the direction we now know that they were going to go in, Meg wanted that out the way. That needed to go elsewhere. And if there was confusion, but either way, but even if they did, you're a grown ass adult, Harry, and you are responsible for yourself.
Exactly.
You
It's
know?
like, and this is what I say to the kids. If someone tells you to jump off a cliff, would you do it? You got
Mm-hmm.
your own brain.
Yeah,
And it's almost like a toddler being led to a dangerous situation.
yeah, yeah.
Um, you really should have a feel of what's acceptable in society and
He
what isn't.
understands his role, his position within that family, and that cost anyone actually. You don't even need to be a part of the royal family. You understand the backlash you would get and how disgusting it is to wear something like that, you know? But I'm just going to say to SEJ14, why would William worry about that skank? I call bullshit on that part, added for the book. I do believe that William would have worried about Harry. Because at the beginning, I know what it's like when they come into your life, and this is a brother that they did have a connection. Then all of a sudden, you've got this whirlwind that is Meghan on the scene, and you're slowly losing your brother. And everything that we've watched roll out, William has every right to worry. Look what we're here 5 years later, and they continue with that smile on her face, no care. She's bionic.
I think they, like you say, I think they sensed that she was dangerous, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
is where when someone's going to be like in a lot of relationships you tend to have the really cool-headed calm person, and then you've got the more, not
Mm-hmm.
everyone, but there's a dynamic and there's a balance there,
The
right?
yin and the
So
yang.
the
Yeah.
yin and the yang, and maybe he sensed that both of them together, they fired each other up, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and she was able to, he could sense, and Princess Catherine could sense that she was kind of like an instigator of, since she came along, of causing unnecessary problems here and there, things that weren't really a problem in their eyes. Like, for
Mm.
example, there was the fight between Catherine and Meghan,
Yeah.
and that was over the dress. Is that correct? The bridesmaid dress?
Yes, and even that they tried to paint Catherine in this. Her knuckles were clenched and they were white. Harry said that, and I just like that. I all I see is them setting a stage and a scene, almost like a movie backdrop of these characters, and it's just assassination with everything they're
Mm,
trying to do. And that's what their books, their shows, that's what they were trying to achieve. You can't
mm.
argue with the fact they're trying to take down the monarchy. And I know that's extreme, but there's always this scene set.
Yes, and again, that this is another good point. Claire said that it's a culture
Hmm.
clash.
Yeah.
It's like, and that is, I mean, the royals are so traditional in the way they
Yeah.
do things, and they're very prim and proper. I would
Hmm.
say, just out of from the top of my head, I would say they don't wear their emotions on their sleeves. Um, they probably wouldn't have ever been. They would be encouraged not to,
Yeah.
basically, not to show emotion, because
Yeah,
if,
absolutely.
yeah. So she's probably the opposite of that,
Hmm.
and so that's going to also upset the balance of the royal family. And
Is she though? Is she the opposite of that? In the Meghan Markle we've seen, have we seen this loving, kind, forgiving take? Have we seen that other than the character she's projected? Because if she was this, loving, friendly American, would we have watched her dad on TV cry? I don't buy that. That's a
but is
character.
she? I don't think she's emotional, but she's portraying that she
Yes.
is. That's
This
the
skinny,
difference.
ripped jean
That
wearing,
is,
hugging
yes,
barefoot, Catherine all
yes,
stiff in the kitchen
yes.
again, setting
Yes.
a
So she's
scene.
playing on the notion that Harry wants someone with an intuitive, emotional stance that's not afraid to speak their mind. So she's doing all that. Doesn't mean that she is that. But
Yeah, yeah.
remember, she is an actress.
Yes.
So she knows what chords to pull. And
Yeah.
that's how I feel she managed to get into his head and give him everything he's desired from a woman, because
Hmm.
he has lived in a very stiff world,
Yes.
and a very, with protocol and with a lot of rules around him. He's got this now, this supposed free thinking woman who reminds him of his mother, which he
It's dark.
continuously,
Yes. Which I don't
yeah.
think anyone can deny at this point. It's very toxic. It's very dark. And sometimes I go, are they happy? Is this just a media illusion? No one could be happy and sleep at night with what have they got? It's their anniversary, wasn't it, the other weekend?
Where
How
do
do
they
you
go for
sit
a
in your big
McDonald's?
mansion with no family around you, just damage and carnage everywhere you look? How is any human being happy?
It this is the thing, isolating yourself from your family
Hmm.
is, and both families, is very, very lonely.
Yeah.
I don't think that either family are toxic enough to be cut off.
No.
That's everybody. It's, they haven't, for me, and I know this has been touched on before, we don't know everything, but from what I can see and what we can all see, there's not been any abuse. There's not been any SA abuse. There's not been any kind of emotional neglect, as far as we know. I mean, there are a lot worse parents out there, on either side, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like there's a justification to cutting everyone off the way that they have. But that is what narcissists do.
Well,
They
the thing
make
is,
you,
there's another part in his book where he says he sat at the table with Charles, and Charles looks down at his plate and kind of says so along the lines of I got it wrong or I failed or something like that. And to
Mm.
me, that moment of Charles validating Harry and I'm not perfect, yeah. To me, I feel a human interaction, and where Harry says that, you know, Charles used to come to the end of his bed, sit on his bed, leave the door open ajar every night. Well, there are some people out there that are scared for that. You know, like, I don't want to go there in the real dark sense, but that's a reality for some. So actually what you've had, and at this point, like you said, the punishment does not suit the crime. And we watch Charles with his grandchildren. Now, you know, this stiff family that's being portrayed in the, we watch Catherine go, I can't deal with what's his name, the little one. Look at what's his name? Louis. And she's like, here, take him to your dad. And like Charles is there bouncing him on his knee. He's happy to go to granddad's knee because that shows behind the scenes this is going on, you know. So those children are missing out on their grandparents. You know. Anyhow, you know, I'm like rambling
No,
on.
and that's true, and you know that grandparent isolation is a real thing, and it's actually very difficult
Yeah.
because you don't. I always think this is my mind. This is my kind of theory behind it. There are adults within a family that you don't particularly get on with, you
Mm-hmm.
don't particularly like, but I always think that for the kids' sake, you make it work. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you make things work. This doesn't, you don't, if they do something really bad, there's a difference. But
No, but that's the thing. You cut that
yeah,
out then.
yeah. And I think if the kids grow up missing out on grandparents, that's a real big, that has a big effect on their life because having different adults with different ways of dealing with you and being with you is really crucial for your development, really crucial. And if you can have as many good people around you as possible to bring up
Yeah.
your children, then your children are going to be happier. I mean, that's just me. That's just
But
how
no, to
I
be honest with
feel.
you,
Yeah.
like if you're speaking to someone at 10 years old was going to search a cemetery for a grave because my
Oh,
granddad, who loved me, was there and I wanted that connection
yeah.
and I was
Yeah.
heartbroken. So
Yeah.
so there's a reality, even with grandparents, when it's a link and you haven't got anyone else, it's pretty, you know, and I feel people and people say, well, he's the king. Why doesn't he go and see the children? Can you imagine the stink that would if Charles forced himself into this situation of coming over? Can you imagine the backlash that the royal family, as far as I'm concerned, right now, are sat in a situation where they're being abused on the main stage. I don't know which direction to go. Either way will be wrong. Harry and Meghan know this, so they're just carrying on, doing what they want, relying on that never complain and never explain, and relying on the royal family's fear that they're going to take it extra. And to me, that is abuse, in my opinion.
And you're totally right because they're not retaliating. So
No.
no, it's hard to watch someone just bombard you and listen, and
Mm.
you're accepting it, and
Yeah.
it must be painful and and be aggravate them and make them angry because they
Mm-hmm.
can't speak out because that's just not the way royals conduct themselves.
Mm.
They've always kept things private.
Yeah.
And these lot are just going, you know, one after the other, dig after dig after dig, and it's like, is there going to be a stop to it? Are they
Mm.
going to leave if they don't want to be around them? Just leave them alone,
Well,
you
I think
know?
that's where the people come in because I feel like the people have just watched it and we're watching this really uncomfortable watch at this point. Not only them to behave in the way they are, we know the royal family have this never complain. We know Charles, we know the cancer, we know, and the people are watching this horrendous. And then we've got the poor Markles over here who are able to speak out. And when they do, they get absolutely annihilated because what they're lower class and they can speak out. Now, if we had the royal family speaking out also, the Markles would be even, but they're up against an institution of silence. Like everywhere you look, you've got people being abused, and that's, I suppose, why I speak out on it. And it's all my opinion, but that's how I feel in watching it all.
100%. And I think this is the it's unbalanced now. It feels
Mm-hmm.
it feels like you've got two bombs about to go off,
Mhm.
just ticking away. And the fear factor for the royals, what's going to come next? Because if you antagonize the beast,
Mm.
will the beast come back worse, or make
But
a make a
but then
counter attack that's going to cause even more pain?
but then I suppose understanding it to a certain degree in the way I do feel like you do need to nip it at the bud. You need to freeze a narcissist out. You need to, I feel they're doing it anyway. They're just going to continue to abuse their position of fake royalty, which they've taken now. And I feel like they're doing it anyway. And slowly they're going to cause the same amount of damage as if Charles were to come out and strip them and do whatever he needs to do.
I
I
think you're
feel like
right.
I feel like you
It,
need to rip the band-aid off now, because right now they're like the little boy and girl that cried wolf anyway, because no one really believes them. No one really respects them. So they may come out in, there may be some American Paramount that will do something with them, but people, they're a laughing stock. Unless that's what the royal family are doing, letting it just, but then they're trying to protect Catherine as well, because she has been the main like not main culprit, like the main victim, in my opinion, with all of this.
mm.
And she's got cancer.
Yes, and I think it's just the timing isn't right to strip them. That's what I've
No.
always thought. It's just not the right time yet. But I would like to see them take, their privileges and taken away.
Yeah.
Um, because why should they run around with a name if they can't respect it?
Well, that's
You
the
know?
thing. They're not even respecting it, are they? Because
No.
like you see them in Nigeria, you see that first lady of Nigeria coming out in the naked, and it's embarrassing. It just casts a cloud on top of an already dark cloud over the royal family, and I feel like the magic is slowly slipping away with them being just doing what they're doing. I feel like there's a puncture slowly.
It feels very slapdash. It feels
Hmm.
very chaotic, and I
Hmm.
think they're grabbing at different straws,
Yeah.
just trying to find their place in the
Mm.
world. And they just still don't know. I mean, we even discussed that they don't even have any products on their website yet, on the live on Saturday. So that doesn't make any sense to me either. If you've got a business up and running, where are your products? What are you selling? It's just, is it just sitting there doing nothing? I
I
don't
feel
get it.
I feel like with that was just a bit of a smoke and mirrors. We're doing other stuff other than royal and bashing royals. I think they were trying to feed the PR. I feel like Meghan just wanted a moment to take over that day where she wanted to capitalize on that moment. She don't give a damn about Jam.
No,
And
no,
that's the
she
thing, when
doesn't.
you give people like that an endless amount of opportunities and money, I suppose that she can just play. What person would have Chrissy Teigen advertise their jam?
Well,
When
Tina, do you want to, make a jam? Are you up for it?
do I want to make a jam?
We
Should we
could.
aftermath
We
jam?
could do a
I don't
jam.
even like jam. Like jam had its moment a few months ago, did it? No one ate jam. All of a sudden
We
jam
could
went
we could
mad.
we could make a jam with like probiotics in it. We could do a really healthy one, and we could just sell it. Right, a
I feel
right
like
royal
Charles's
jam.
portrait was painted in Meghan's jam.
Oh yes, yes. No one could eat it, so they just made it with the jam. Brilliant. Edible King Charles. Love it. Well,
Yeah,
not so edible.
Paula said King Charles had Chrissy Teigen at the King's Trust Gala in New York. King can strip
Ah,
palace and shoot parliament in need of the line of session room.
there you go. Daniel Kane's going
Uh,
to buy some of our jam. There you go.
there you go.
Wonderful.
White Royal Jam.
That's what I'm saying, Tina. Let's
Oh,
get on board with
I
the
missed that, didn't
get
I?
board
Bit slow on
get
the
on
uptake
board
there.
get on board with the jam wagon. Everybody's selling jam. We should sell jam. What do you reckon?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do it. Let's think of a
Let's
business
go.
model. we'll just like launch 50 jams and then just shut down the website. Is that all right with you?
Do you know what? We've got all these amazing. We got Paula M. Like, we can send one to
Yeah,
her.
she can
We
send us
can
her
send one to
avocados
Sean.
over, can't she? And you just gonna have to get a massive ship to send them bad boys over.
Paula, you've got to actually do a video of you actually eating the jam though, because no one's actually ate Meghan's jam. And we got to do better than the lemons, because the lemons, that's what I mean. There's no care or effort. When you see how she sent them out, it just seems like a side hustle of, yeah, we're busy doing, you know, I do other stuff than bash my husband's family.
Yeah. Well, this is I mean, cooking in ball gowns as well. We could
Oh,
do a
do you know
video
what?
cooking in a ball gown. I'm up for that.
She could not be any less like,
Relatable.
I just can't believe how someone can physically, mentally get it wrong at every turn. It's like life goes, this is a really good choice, this is a bad one. And she's just right all the time. Like,
Yeah, I wonder who's like giving them advice at the moment. They've got to have like an advisor, right? Or do they have someone like a
I
handler that
don't,
helps them with their advice?
I don't
Like
believe
they're
she
guiding
takes
them through
advice
life?
from anyone.
Right, so I've got. Remember you were telling me about the older lady that he lost his virginity to, yeah?
Oh,
So I, who is this older lady? Because I've got an extract here. I'll read it first, and you
okay.
can go into detail, Tina.
Right,
It
I
says
don't know all the
here.
I don't know the
Oh
name, but
well,
I'm not going to speak the name.
yeah.
But I will speak my, yeah, go on.
Yeah, okay, ready. Harry says he lost his virginity to an older lady who loved horses very much. He claims it happened in a field behind a pub and was humiliating. The poor woman. I mounted her quickly, after which she spanked my arse and held me back. One of my mistakes was letting it happen in a field just behind a busy pub. He writes, no doubt someone had seen us. Well, I like how he says he mounted her like it's a horse.
And she smacked him on the rump. Like, who speaks like that? Only a prince, only a spare could speak like that.
So
To be
who
honest,
is this lady, Tina?
literally, from what I know, right, she's literally younger than Meghan,
All
right?
right.
But people got hold of this, and the way he's worded it, it was almost like he got taken advantage of, this Mrs. Robinson type vibe. People were like going, is it Liz Hurley? And like, I'm sure, I don't know, she had to come out and say, no, it wasn't me. It just went crazy. And this is the thing, this is the power he had as someone coming out writing a book. And he landed so many people in the shit by it, because there was no care or control or thought for anybody else. And this girl was a broom hand, I believe, from in the circle of friends that they were in. And they'd all gone to the pub one night and that happened. But he had to add the glitter and sparkle, which really, it was like Harry having sex behind a pub with someone, a broom hand. And actually, if you look at the power balance there, the power balance was in his hand, being the prince, and her just being a broom hand. But the way it was presented in the book, like this older woman had come along, smacked him on the rump, he was a bit embarrassed, and she took advantage of me. Then there was a media frenzy of find this woman. So this woman, a friend from back then, bless her, and you can only imagine what it was like for her. Yeah, I go. She was like so embarrassed from Henry stating that in the book. Yeah, so I can only imagine, right? So you have a little fling or a one night stand with a prince. There's no way on earth you would ever think that that would come out, especially through his own words. And I can only imagine, as the media frenzy grew, and she's moved on, she's got children, a husband. Can you imagine the anxiety of the media rocking up in your morning as you're doing the school run? So she came out and she just dealt with it, didn't she? She said it was me, kind of thing.
I didn't even know who the woman was, because I've not seen any interviews from this woman. But I feel like the worst part of that is he wrote down it was humiliating.
I know. Like, so
that's not nice.
It's really demeaning to her as well in this moment when they were younger. And it was just really out of order. So when this woman come out and said it was me, I'm only a couple of years older than him, just to nip it in the bud and get it out the way. Or maybe she thought, do you know what, you writing that about me, so she came out, didn't she?
Yeah.
But then the hate she was getting, like, for coming out, and it's like, well, hang on, he was the one who done this fast, he's placed her in this situation.
Mm.
Yeah, she did came
Yeah.
out with the true story, not Henry. So it's just really, there was no fault for anyone else in that process of that book. Now, you'd like to think there would have been a bit of loyalty to that stuff, but it's literally consumed by Harry and how he felt in his emotions, and that's what I see.
Yeah, and
Every woman is being degraded in that book except Mommy and Meghan Markle, and it's true.
oh,
There's
that's
so
true.
many.
Wow. Yeah, and no, you're completely right. He only has eyes for two people in his life. And yeah, very little respect for anyone else. And I also feel like his relationship with Princess Catherine, as far as I was aware, they had quite a good relationship up until Meghan came along. So it's really
Mm-hmm.
quite sad to see. Oh, we've got someone watching from the Netherlands. Hello.
Hey,
Amazing.
Netherlands.
And Australia, and it's all around the
Oh my
world. It's
God, I bet like they're
brilliant.
all on different time zones as
I
well. It's
know,
like
guys. Thank you
crazy.
so much for
Thank
watching.
you.
I've got another extract.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Extract. Harry reveals his head count. So this is where I play devil's advocate slightly,
Oh.
because he states that he killed 25 people when he was stationed in Afghanistan. And he states here that most soldiers don't know exactly how many kills they have to their credit. Under battle conditions, you often fire indiscriminately. And he writes, however, in the age of laptops and everything in every bit of tech going, in the course of his two tours, everything was recorded and time stamped, and he could always tell exactly how many enemy combats he had killed. And it seemed essential for him not to be afraid of that figure. Among the many things he learned in the armed forces was to be accountable for his own actions. Now, I feel like if you've killed 25 people and you've been in the army, now I know from my granddad being in the war, he was in the navy, and he'd had to do a lot of things he didn't talk about, and he never
Mm-hmm.
used to talk about the war. And I feel like there's a level of PTSD that comes from being in the army, whether it's minor or acute or not. You
Mm-hmm.
see a lot of things that, and you do a lot of things that you wouldn't do in normal life. Do you think that may have contributed to the way Harry is today?
None of us can say what he see, but you know, I listen to all these snippet bits, and the fact that Harry felt so traumatized when he was on his way home and the curtain blew open and he see injured soldiers. I thought, if you've if you've been on the front lines and you've caused that much damage and you've seen that much in, why in this moment of the curtain blowing open
Mm,
has that got to you so much, you know? But
mm,
obviously we could never say, but there's so much evidence and pictures of him, you know, sat casually playing on his computer in his setup in Camp Bastion. Is it Camp Bastion? And you just think, do you know what? You never discuss it. I just feel like soldiers don't discuss that. Like you said, like your granddad, the PTSD, some things you don't
mm,
discuss because you would carry that level
mm,
of human life in that respect, even if it's the enemy. I just
mm,
feel like, again, it's another moment where there's this lack of respect for anyone around him, and it's about how he feels and what he did, you know. And also I feel like there was no code in that moment when he shared that to all the other people, veterans or what have you, when he shared that, so almost like animalistic, like number, like it was just
Well,
a
do you
number.
think it? it feels like a bit like bragging almost, like,
Yes.
oh, I killed this many
Yeah.
people. And actually, I don't think anybody goes into, I mean, I don't know, World War Two is different because it was conscripted and no one really wanted to go to war. They were all brainwashed into doing it. And we were fighting for, weren't told everything. And there is a level of, I think in one, I can't remember if it's World War One or World War Two, where on Christmas Day they drop their weapons and they
Yes.
play
Yeah.
football.
Yeah.
And on the ground you see another person, do you really want to kill them? Do you really want to do that, I think personally, it's even like, if you could compare it to as well, and it's not the same thing, but we all eat meat. But if I had to go out and kill a cow, I wouldn't probably be able to do it.
Yeah.
It's
No,
like
yeah.
I know it's not the same thing at all.
No, but I get what you're saying. It takes it to another level.
Yeah.
And, with any action or behavior you'd carry, regardless of whether you were there to do a job, you'd carry an emotional reaction to that, a flashback. Like, it just don't fit in. You know what? Even if he did, the lack of empathy and understanding, not only but the lack of understanding to all those soldiers out there suffering PTSD who don't get a therapist like Gabor, like Harry did, and more. There are so many people. We see homeless veterans on our streets. We see this glamorized in Invictus, where the vets get to go to Whistler, which they have to pay for their own flights, I believe. I bet some that have been kicked out of their council flat or homeless, and it's just like
I live in Brixton, and
yeah,
there's a lot of homeless people
yeah.
around here, and there are a lot of veterans, and they've got half a leg, half an arm, and they are struggling. Their mental health has deteriorated a lot because, like you said, they didn't get the therapy afterwards. They've just dropped. They
Yeah.
come home and they've got nothing left for them. It's a whole different life.
Yeah.
There isn't a support network out there for them, and they're doing things that I consider quite inhumane. I don't really think it could. I don't believe in conscription at all, because I definitely would never want my son to go and fight for a country that I don't believe is doing anything right by us in the first place.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to war. Who wants to go to war?
No.
And when he's gone to go and be a soldier in Afghanistan, he's not just a soldier like a regular soldier. He's got.
Do you know what? You've got to ask your question to all those
Yeah.
ones in Brixton. Even though they're on the lowest ebb, would they share that number to anyone?
No, I don't think they would. No, and they wouldn't also brag about what they've done that was good either. Because I'm just referring back to my granddad. He saved an American soldier's life, and that was actually in the paper. And he never spoke about that either. He just didn't speak about anything. He had this air of mystery about him, because I just don't think you can even put what you see and do into words. That's how detached you are from
but also
normal life.
Most people in that moment would take the humble. Who wants people coming and going, oh my God, you're a hero, you saved someone's life? Like, most of us, a human reaction would, well, me a bit more so because the aftermath would feel gross. I'd be like, oh no, don't be nice to me. But I just feel like this is where you take it back to Meg and how Beyonce messaged her, and she's on Netflix and she reads it out to Harry, and Beyonce
talk to me about this. Come on, tell me. I don't know about this.
I need to get it up. Hang on, wait there. Carry on. I need to get it up on my phone and read it out to you, because it's a long verse, and it's praising Meghan, and Meghan sits there and just reads it about herself with a smile on her face, almost nodding and agreeing about how amazing she is. And also, like, the pilot, when they come in, this pilot or whoever come and sat next to her and took his hat off and was like, you've done amazing stuff for our and this is what most people would feel embarrassed and a bit to say about themselves, even if it is right, because a lot of us take humble and don't want to be that person. But she's just like flat out, yeah, no, I'm amazing. But let me go and get it, because if you,
Go
I
get,
can't
go
believe
get.
you've not heard this.
No, no, I haven't heard it, Tina. I feel like I'm living in the woods sometimes. I've got some good comments on here. Let me just try to scroll up. There seems to be a huge problem around the world. It's appalling. Yes, used to work in Brixton. Okay, that's great. Yes, Brixton is quite a diverse place. It's got a lot of problems actually, Brixton. In terms of like drug use and homelessness. So yeah, but it's busy. It's got a lot going on. I'm going to read another extract from the book. So, right, here we go. Harry thought Diana was hiding after her death, so he could not accept she had died. So he's put here, he denies Diana's death. So for a long time, he thought that she hadn't actually died. And Harry writes in his memoir, with nothing to do but roam the castle and talk to myself, a suspicion took hold, which then became a firm belief. This was all a trick, and for once the trick wasn't being played by the people around me or the press, but my mummy. Her life's been miserable. She's been hounded, harassed, lied about and lied to, so she staged an accident as a diversion and run away. So for a while, Harry believed that his mum didn't die. Did you catch any of that, Tina?
Yeah, no, I
Um,
did.
I just had to fill in the blank space.
You know what though? On a human level, and bringing balance, how can anyone hear that and not understand that to be a reality for this young prince? You know, we've got the Harry of today, okay, and all that he's done, but it would easily fill your mind with growing up in the way he did, in what he watched Diana go through, and then hearing that news with how actual that validation, and you would question whether it's true or whether they're going to walk back through the door. Most people, when they lose my mate died in a car crash and her three boys died, and she went out to work fine that morning. Now, I can only imagine those boys still hope that she'll walk through the door. So this would be a normal, wouldn't it? You know, and with the paranoia and stuff, and that's why I think people are angry with Harry, because I think to a certain level we understood that he wanted to get out, he wanted to break away, and I think a lot of people supported that. But it's the way he took it then, you know, and that's why people have reacted and gone, no, enough's enough. You know, your brother suffered too. This is wrong.
But for him to believe that she hadn't actually died, and to
Mm.
pretend that she was still alive and in hiding, that's a coping mechanism, right?
Mm-hmm. Denial.
So how long did that go on for? Because that's quite unhealthy. That needed to
Mm-hmm.
be looked into. Did anyone else know that he was in denial, and how long did it go on for? Because these missed problems in childhood
Mm-hmm.
come out later on in life, and if he was in denial for a long time,
Yeah.
that would have impacted his mental health, because
Absolutely.
he's
And this is,
fantasizing,
yeah,
isn't he?
yeah. And
And yeah, go
I
on.
should
Sorry.
imagine it's a normal fantasy for a child that loses a parent or a loved one in that way, especially when it's so tragic and out the blue and unexpected. You know, there's no, and then you chuck in like the royal family, the press, and what he grew up with the cameras always chasing them. I can imagine. And that is, you know, this is, I don't come out here and proclaim that Harry's had the most perfect life. I understand that there's been wrongs, and the royal family, in you know, we watch King Charles not have the hugs he used to curtsy his mom, you know. There is a generational sort of, but I feel like that's softened over the years. However, I don't think at this point it justifies what he's done, you know. Like, so,
Mm.
but I do carry sympathy for that young prince who found himself in this aristocrat silence.
He was deafened, wasn't he? He was silenced, and the thing is, as well, we
But
can't
William was
really,
too.
yeah, but we can't relate to William and Harry's that incident that
No.
happens, we can lose loved ones, but not in such a manner
Yeah.
where it's the way it was and how he had to deal with it, like
Yeah.
walking behind the coffin, and it all his mother's funeral on television. He was probably told not to cry, not to
Hmm.
show any emotion. I mean, how difficult
Yeah.
is that to do that? You
Hmm.
know, I to put all that pressure on two young princes to act accordingly to suit the regime, I
Hmm.
find quite that in itself is quite scary. You know, they should have been able to grieve in a healthy manner, and they even not even be on the television. You know, why were they on
Yeah.
the television? Why were
Thing
they
is
not
though,
just
Harry
inside?
Harry wasn't supposed to walk behind the coffin,
Yeah.
but he wanted to. He wanted to be with William, and that's where Prince Philip broke. And here we go again. That Prince Philip broke protocol and insisted that he would walk with them because that protection was around them. You know, it may not have been there in in a home where your mom's a therapist. You know, you've got this, but I feel like although it wasn't enough, they tried. And yeah, none of us could relate to what they went through. And this is why I think a lot of the public took Harry and William under their wing, watching them walk behind that coffin, watch them come and do the meet and greet with all the people crying for their
No, and you
mom.
just don't do it though. Like they're just babies, you
Yeah,
know.
no, absolutely. But it would
And
never happen
yeah,
again. It
I
would
hope
never
not.
happen
I
again.
really hope not.
I
And
know.
I know that they didn't know how to deal with that because it's never happened before. So I get that they didn't know how to deal with it, but they had to take it as in a different way. And the
Hmm.
level of, if you know, fuck off protocol.
Hmm.
Forget about being royals for a minute.
Yeah.
They've lost their mum, and that's the
Hmm.
main problem. That's not. Let's don't worry about everybody else. You know,
Hmm.
they don't need to see the princes at all.
No.
And you know, I struggle with looking at the old clips of that actually because I
Mm.
just think, God, I could
Well, I think we
never.
all do. I think we
Yeah.
all did. And
Mm.
I think that's why Harry, anything he did after that, even in his rebellious years before Meghan come along, the British public were like, leave him alone. Like, you know,
Mm.
like, because
Mm.
we knew and understood that that wasn't the most humane thing for them to go through, to
Yeah.
lose your mom. And I couldn't
Mm.
even imagine having to greet people who are able to cry for your mom and console them in the way they were
And
greeting
they're not
them.
even
And
crying.
you know, and
Yeah,
William sort of said that he was
they had
lucky
to.
that he had his cartons at that point because it hid his eyes and he looked down in like, no. But here's the thing, they both went through that, and everyone's different and everyone handles trauma differently. And, you know, I feel like to be honest with you, right, if Harry had a wife come onto the scene who was there for him and not what she could get from him, we look what Catherine has brought to William's life out of pure family. She's gave him that. We watch William take the
Mm.
bike rides he had with his mom and dad because Harry said that never happened, but we've got pictures of him doing it again.
Mm.
We've watched him focus on his children's chapter and not his last chapter. You know, he's broke that cycle, and it's just sad that we watch Harry unable to. But I don't think his wife wants him to.
No, no, and expressing emotion is really important, isn't it? And burying it can cause all
Mm,
sorts of problems.
yeah.
Okay, do you want to read out that uh
Oh, the
yeah, from
text.
Beyonce?
I'm
Yeah.
just going to say, Catherine Rosina, is it? The age of reason teeters on 12 to 13, making H remain there. But William was more intellectually developed, so he coped better than H. No excuse, but possible for H. I understand that. But William was only 15, you know, and I just feel like that it's their mom. And I get that he was younger, but William also, yes, I think William understood because William was Diana's confidant, wasn't he? She relied on him a lot to share a lot of what she knew, and I suppose Harry was oblivious to the other
I
side to it, like William
I
was.
think he's the same age as my son now when
Hmm.
Diana died, and I do think it's you need your I know you still need your mum at any age, but when
Yeah.
they're 9, is that 9 when she died, is that
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
It's they're very reliant still on their parents, aren't they?
Hmm.
And they need comfort from them. So the impact it had on Harry might have been slightly different to that of
Yeah.
William.
Yeah.
But yeah, you go for it. You
And
read
it's
out the
different people.
Beyonce.
Oh, okay, so they're on Netflix, and they're sat there, and she's like, I got a text
I got a
from
text. Is she
Beyonce.
from Love
Then
Island?
Harry
I got a
goes,
text.
all like girl fanning, like the moment he goes, and he goes, go and call,
Beyonce.
and he goes, go call her, and she's like, no, it's all right. And to which Markle declined. She said, Bae, she wants me to feel safe and protected. She continued, she admires and respects my bravery and vulnerability and thinks I was selected to break generational curses that need to be healed.
Hmm.
And that,
Okay.
but it's
Okay.
just, and you just like, fuck, how are you reading that out and not just getting secondhand embarrassment when you read, like, and it just, and like Beyonce never confirmed it, and there was a lot of
Just.
text happening where they were on Netflix, even when William supposedly
Oh.
William supposed message loads of abuse, and like Harry does this dramatic, I've had a message off William. Then he's like that, look to Meg. And it's just
And
like
then
that could
she's
be
gone.
Dominoes for all we know. Like, come on.
Probably was Domino's.
And then she hugs him, and like they have this moment again of projection, placing William out as this bad wolf. And it was just like, if you're not going to give the message, cut it out, because
Oh, yes, they didn't reveal the
no,
message.
no, no. So it's just all
Mm.
very movie scripture to just make it and add the glitter and sparkle of hate.
Do you think he wants people to hate William? Is that what his objective is through this? It's like, let's badmouth him as much as possible and everyone love me and not William. Is that what he wants
Okay.
from
Do you
this?
want my actual full on
Yeah,
like feel?
I do, Tina. I want your full on
I
opinion.
feel like he didn't set out to do all of this. I feel as it's grown and the isolation and segregation started. Okay, so the family's not responding to him then like they would have before. So Harry's a very sensitive victim hoodie type person, which only fed into the narrative. Meghan's saying, "You're now a man and no longer a spare, and for that I love you." And locks of hair on pregnancy tests. We watch her speaking about seatbelts and crashes, and then he comes back to the coronation, and he's no longer, he's like third row back because of what he's done and the damage he's caused. When it now feeds into his insecurities, which he's getting angry, and like it
Mm.
stirs the pot. And I feel like he's just in this state, and now it's got to the point where he's just angry, and he's got her like bigging that up, and that's my opinion anyway. I just feel
So
like
it's
it
like he's
all
opened a can of
feeds.
worms and he can't seem to put the lid on it now. Is that what you think?
I think she opened the can of worms and she won't allow him to put the lid on it. And also his own anger and spoiled prince like mode. He's, yeah, and he's got to protect his wife. He's got to protect his mom, shall I say. And I feel like there's so much at play here in watching and listening to all the bits. But this is just my opinion, someone who's
No,
grown up
and
with
it's
you.
this all is opinion based allegedly. You
Mm,
know the score, guys.
yeah.
We're just giving you our opinions.
Yeah.
We've got
I
one
don't believe in it.
last. Yeah,
So
go on, go
sorry,
on.
so just said, Catherine said, I don't believe initial intent was to harm his family. I think the spoiled prince in him was thinking he could do all of this and just go back and be fine. I think because for
Mm,
years they let him get away with a lot, this is
mm.
his norm. And I don't think he quite understood how far, I don't know how you can sit there and sign contracts with Netflix for millions of pounds where you sit on a sofa and annihilate and think it's going to be okay, but that's a royal family world we will never understand.
Mm. No, and I think I think if you're being told everything is normal, the way you're behaving, then you'll just carry on with it, won't you? No, and people are scared to tell. you know, I think a lot of celebrities, when they do things, for example, they and I always kind of put Harry in the celebrity bracket, but this is the only way I can kind of
Oh, Jack, shut the door.
refer to both, is that everybody is too scared to tell them they're doing something that's wrong, or that the way they're behaving isn't exactly doing them any favors, because when you speak the truth to someone like that, they normally will shut you out,
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want to be told the word no, or they don't want to be pulled apart. And maybe he has that air about him where he doesn't take any advice from
Mm-hmm.
anyone apart from
And
Meghan.
that's why they've
Yeah,
probably
go on.
got through like 27 staff.
Yes, yes, a big staff turnover.
Yeah.
We all know what that means when
You
there's
know,
a
and
big
that's the
staff
thing with
turnover.
every theory or opinion or feeling towards this, there's an actual evidence or action surrounding them that would back it up. Who
Yes,
gets through that amount
exactly.
of staff?
A terrible establishment gets
Mm-hmm.
through that amount of
Yeah.
staff. I actually had this conversation about somewhere else the other day. Last slide, Tina. So, William wasn't his best man. Now, apparently, originally it was meant to be William, but he changed it to his old mate Charlie. And we also touched on this before, the night before um, his and Meghan's wedding. Harry claims that William cancelled last minute on plans to get drinks with him and his friends. He told me just before he attended tea with Granny he can't do it. Harold, Kate, and the kids. Harry writes, I'd reminded him that it was our tradition that we had dinner before his wedding and that we'd gone together and visited the crowds. He held fast, can't do it. I asked myself what was really going on. Was he feeling bad about not being my best man, or was he upset that I'd asked my old mate Charlie? The palace put out the story that Willie was the best man, as they'd done with me when he and Kate got married. Could that be part of it? So I didn't actually realise that neither or one of them were each other's best man.
Mm.
Did you know that?
Yeah, obviously because we all know so much about the royal family and how it churns out now because of Harry and Meghan. That never
Yeah.
complain and never explain has been smashed into bits, and I've never known so much about them. Um, my just sheer gut instinct is that William already understood what Meghan was, and just didn't probably didn't want to ruin Harry's night, because he probably knew it might have gone there. I
Mm,
just feel like the whole world was like, "What? You're having no family at your wedding other than one person?" There must have been questions around the royal fold. We now know that the alleged bullying claims of staff for Meghan and Harry was going on, and by that point, I feel like Meghan had already showed herself, and it's like, mm, you know,
do you think then, because they weren't each other's best men, do you
hmm
think then that there's these tiny little things that are going on behind the scenes that got to the point where it all blew up?
hmm
Because I do feel, and I've always felt like nothing just comes out of nowhere.
no.
There's got to be lots going on for years and years and years. And what reason was it that?
Well, it wasn't really years and years and years. They weren't together that long, were they? And that's the thing. William and Catherine were together 10, 12 years, was it, before they got married or something like that, on and off. He gave her a chance to understand. But
Mm,
again, I go back to Frozen, that rush job, and I found love, and I want to get married
let
because
it
I'm the
go,
spare.
let it
Yeah, yeah. I
go.
feel like that vulnerability in Harry, because he was the spare, and he wasn't, trained to be the heir, and the importance of it so much, and he had quite a laid back life. It was kind of like, you've got Catherine, I'm going to have Meghan, and I'm going to be treated the same way, and she's going to be treated the same way. And I suppose maybe that's where the spare came out in him, because he see Meghan not being treated the same, but
Mm.
because of her behaviour, they were a bit like, I don't know. You don't know, do you? What do you
No,
reckon?
I just feel like that. even before Meghan came along, was there a lot more problems than we know of? Because I do feel like, how can one person be so what's the word I'm looking for? Not corruptive. What's the word? I'm
Easily
just
manipulated.
disruptive.
Oh,
Yeah,
disrupt.
just disrupt. Completely, like it's like an earthquake coming into the family. It's if there weren't strong foundations in the first place, then could she have done what she's done and made that divide? I do feel like there was already a long-standing breakdown of their relationship before it got to the point where, when Meghan came in, she was the catalyst that
Hmm.
broke the straws back,
Hmm.
and and then she was able to put her fires out in different places. That's
Yeah.
how I kind of feel like the tension
Oh,
was there
that yeah,
already.
there was obviously some there to manipulate and feed, and
Yeah.
you've got sibling rivalry. Now we know it, just everyone else. And not only that, we had extra sausages on William's plate, when the reality is you've got an older child, a younger one. My daughter has a littler plate because she's smaller, and like William had the bigger bedroom in Balmoral, and it's like, it's not really the box room above the stairs, is it? Like, we all have pecking orders, even us, don't we? What do you do in this instance? Yeah,
Ah,
it's just normal
yeah.
run of the mill stuff, but it
It's
probably is
it's it screams
accentuated.
it screams insecurities on
Mm,
Harry's part, and he needs to love himself a little bit more, I think, or
yeah.
maybe less. I'm not sure.
Do you know what? When you've got a wife, say, like, the thing is as well, like, you hear the spare and how bad they treated. I think the alarming thing for me was when he was like, I don't know, holding baby Lilibet and skin on skin, and they were doing that, and you hear Meg say to him, "You're no longer a spare, you are now a man. And for that, I love you." For me, those words in itself are
He's
emasculating in this moment where he's just had a daughter, right? In this moment where he probably would be quite vulnerable and weak to want to reconnect with his family, because you know what it's like? A baby would do that. It would make you want the complete unit. And I feel like it's just that reminder. Look what they
mm,
did to you. Look what they called you. But you are a man
mm.
now, and I love you
He's
for it.
always been a man.
Yes.
This is the irony of it all. He's never, he considers himself so low bar, when really he's got the most privilege out of anyone we
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know him personally, but if you look at his life,
Hmm.
he's the more privileged than anyone. So
Yeah.
he's more of a, if you want to call it, he's got a lot more to offer than the average Joe Blogs
Hmm.
in reality. So to call him that is crazy, isn't
Yeah.
it?
But
And
why would you remind him? Why would you, if it's caused him so much pain and trauma, would the word spare not be just banned? Like, would you go to your husband and just remind him in that moment? Would this
no,
skin on skin, babe?
no,
To me, he's at his most vulnerable, and
yeah.
there you go, this backhanded like insult, but raise you up.
I
And I
wonder.
feel
I
like,
want. I
eh?
wonder. I wonder if, when they're doing the deed in the bedroom, if their safe word is spare.
Oh God. Oh shit.
I'm taking it to a different
Oh.
level. Sorry, guys. I always got to think, go
Claire
low bar.
McCormack. I think
Yeah.
it's interesting. The Wales family is now in a 5-bedroom cottage, and Harry is in a multi-bedroom mansion with no visitors. And how sad is that? What is the point in that mansion? I just feel like it speaks volumes to the nothing life they have. They've got everything, but you're not having barbecue. Well, they may be with the people they pay or the employees that they have, but it's just, I wouldn't want that. Would you?
No, I think that money doesn't buy happiness,
No,
and they really uh they kind of, it's like nothing is making them
no,
feel fulfilled,
no.
and whatever they're doing isn't enough.
Mm.
And it is sad, isn't it? And I do worry, people get to that point in life where they've got everything they want and what is left,
Yeah, yeah,
And is it just to cause drama in your own
yeah.
life?
Yeah, and
Um,
that's the thing, and I feel like it's a desperate. They need the royal family to apologise in order to justify their behaviour, and that's why we have this standoff, I believe. And DMR, I am the fifth spare in my family. We're all a spare. Let's be honest.
oh, imagine,
But the
imagine if he
thing is,
was like 10th in succession, he'd be right peed off, wouldn't
the thing is,
he?
though, we say this and we'd never understand the royal family, but there sadly are situations in life where families have a child and they have genetic problems, or they literally have a baby in order to save the first child. So this happens, right? And I know there's a lot of like questioning of whether that's right or okay, but it happens. So it's just whatever life you're born into. But lucky enough for Harry, with this spare in what he got, just made sure he had everything he could ever need. And I know money doesn't buy you happiness, so we'll flip it back to that. But surely you can look around you and understand you're not the only spare in the universe in the grand scheme
No,
of things.
no, and I don't think he's, spare where he's locked in the basement and he's not just getting fed a bowl of water and again, a bowl of water and some bread. He's well looked after, and
Mm.
he actually contributed a lot to the royal family anyway. He was a working royal,
Mm-hmm.
and that was important, what he was doing. So yeah, it is a shame that he's taken on this victim mentality,
Mm.
and I do feel like we've probably got a lot more to come. But if you enjoyed us reading the extracts from the book today, or paraphrasing them, could you put a 1 in the chat, and we'll do some more of that next Monday.
Mm.
With regards to our show, we're going to be back on a live on Saturday at 9 p.m. with Paula and Cynthia and Tina, and we're going to have this royal news of the week and a similar discussion to that of Saturday. Thank you all for watching, by the way. We had like 5,000 views on
On the
Saturday, I think,
last
more
one,
on
I
the last
know.
one. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. And thank you for all your lovely comments. Please leave comments again, hit the like button, subscribe, you know what to do. Thank you
We
so
got
much for
lots of
joining
ones.
us.
We've got lots
Yeah,
of ones.
we're gonna do
Yay.
this again.
Maybe we
Woo!
could, because we're gonna have to do Netflix as well. Maybe
Yes,
I could get the sound
yes.
so we
I
can
just don't know
listen.
about the copyright rules
Well,
though,
if it's
Tina.
the
I'm
sound though,
confused.
if it's the sound and not the visual, is that like
Yes,
not?
do you know what? I will look into it and I'll find out and I'll see what is allowed and what isn't allowed, because I was too scared to put up my
Guys,
presentation
we're learning
today.
as we grow.
I
We're
was like,
learning as
no,
we
if I
go.
do it, am I going to get a
You're
strike? I
you're on
don't
this
know.
journey with us.
I know. It's crazy. This YouTube world is mad. I'm telling you.
It's scary. That's why I've not delved into it yet. I've not even gone into this
I
realm yet.
know.
And
I've
I will
actually
do though.
I've made some like membership like emojis as well. So
Have you?
they're quite funny. I've got one that goes allegedly. So I think that's quite funny because we have to say that about 1,000 times. So allegedly. All our opinions, guys, okay?
cover, cover. This
Cover
is,
ourselves
I
again
don't
and
even
again and
think
again.
I'm like, able to bring this. I don't think I'm mentally well. No. So it's all our opinions.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a lovely evening or day wherever you
Bye.
are. God bless. Take
Bye.
care. See you.
Bye.
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 Bye.